was in a home in Louisiana, and this report came from Brother Wilkerson. An earth-shattering calamity is about to happen. It's going to be frightening. We're all going to tremble, even the godliest among us. Major cities across America will experience riots and blazing fires, such as we saw in Watts, Los Angeles years ago. There will be riots and fires in cities worldwide. There will be looting. Now, I believe that Brother Wilkerson saw this vision, and he's not the only one, by the way. I remember before I ever knew this, I was at my partner's conference, and I stood at a riverbank, and it was a vision. It was not just a dream. And I looked, and I saw 1, and I saw 2, 3, 4, 5 city skylines. All I could see was the buildings. I couldn't tell you where they were. It could have been downtown Atlanta. It could have been downtown Chicago. It could have been New York. But all of a sudden, in the heart of the city, it was burning. And it was not a nuclear attack. It was not a bomb from terrorists. The people had gotten crazy and were burning down their own inner cities over something that had happened or was happening. But I remember that God showed me a horn of plenty in the sky. You know what that is? And that He was going to take care of those who had a covenant with Him and who trusted in Him, that they would still make it through this time of trial that would come. Now, the thing that would do it, and I concur with Reverend Wilkerson, the thing that would do it is this. If a state could not bring the assistance, whether it be through food or whether it be through, we call them subsidies, from the federal government, and they were cut off for a month or two, and they said, we don't have the money to do it, you're going to take a cutback. There would be people in some of these cities that absolutely would not know what to do. They would panic, and the way they would retaliate is by doing what Reverend Wilkerson saw, just like they did in Watts years ago, is to burn cities down. Burn their, the Watts thing was so sad because people were burning their own apartments down. And when it was over, they sat back and they said, well, we don't know why we did that. We lived there. Now we don't have a place to live. You got to understand that in some places, so many people are bound by alcohol and so many people are bound by drugs. See, Katrina was an example of that. Let me just share something with you. Katrina was everybody's fault. Boy, I could tell you something here, and I don't know if I should. But everybody wanted to blame President Bush, but there were trucks, 18-wheelers full of food, ready to cross those bridges, ready to go to New Orleans, and FEMA, the head of FEMA, wouldn't let it in. And one person in the federal government went in and cut the phone lines of the police station so that they would not get word out. You know why FEMA didn't want them in? FEMA wanted the word FEMA on all the trucks so FEMA could get credit for them. That came to me from a pastor that was involved right in the middle in the heart of the thing. Said, I had my trucks ready, and the federal FEMA emergency would not let me get those trucks in there. Now, I'm not going to say anything other than that was a little bit of everybody. The mayor had a play, the senator had a play, and the federals had a play. Everybody messed that one up. But here's what I want to say. When you saw people panicking, going in and breaking in, I can understand taking food and water, but some of them start taking TV sets and all kinds of electronics. Please understand that that part of New Orleans, a lot of those people were on drugs. They were not able to get the drugs that they normally take. And when people who are on drugs can't get them, come on, anybody been there in your life? You go crazy, you panic, you get paranoid. And so when I saw it, I realized this is not just people who do have needs. They all did. This was a group of people as well that had been involved with drugs and alcohol, and they couldn't take it. And so this is the danger of the cities. Rural areas are a little different. Suburbs are a little different. But when you go into the heart of the city, how many know I'm preaching the truth right here? When you get to the heart of a city, it's so sad that so many individuals have those bondages, and if anything affected that, it would have an impact. Now, very quickly, let me share something with you. as Brother Wilkerson saw this, you've got to understand something about food. New York City only has enough food for one day. Everybody in New York eats out at restaurants and delis. Fox News did a report and said if a crisis ever came in New York, how much food do you have in your apartment? The average New Yorker had enough food to last for 3 days. When New York is shut down at night, the big trucks come in, and that's how they bring the food in. Now, if there's ever a disruption of oil or truck industry, it doesn't take you long to figure out people in those cities that only have enough food for a day are going to be the places where the panic and the problem is going to hit. Is everybody listening to me? Well, let me share something with you. If you want to know what is going to happen, kind of stay in touch with people who work in high places in our government. And I'm not talking about classified stuff. Here we go again. I'm talking about just things generally known, and you'll discover what's being planned. Do you know that there are entire places in the United States where they've cleared the bunker out of all of the weapons? The weapons have already gone to Iraq, they've already gone to Afghanistan, and they are now storing food and water in these huge underground bunkers bigger than football fields. Our government is. Did you know that the companies that make the dried food in Oregon and Utah, that you can almost not find any number 10 cans and order them from them? You know why? They won't say this, but the government and government people are coming in and buying up all of the dried food. Now, I want to ask you something. What do they know that they're not telling you? What are they saying that they're not telling you? There are agencies. Now, you've heard Homeland Security tell you to have a safe room. But there are agencies now that are telling their people, okay, this is the time to get your safe room ready and do it immediately. We know, and I still believe it, that there's going to be a war with this guy. Ahmadinejad sent word to the president in a letter, and he said this: if you bomb us, there are, I can't remember the word, he didn't say agents, there are forces that will release nuclear weapons inside of the United States. I believe he's got biological and chemical stuff that could already be here through people just waiting for the signal to be given. That would create panic. That's why they're telling them, get you a safe room where for 72 hours you've got food. Now, I'm talking about they're telling government people this. Well, why don't they tell the rest of the Americans? 2 reasons. I've learned a long time ago there's things they don't tell you because you'd panic. And they do not want to panic. They don't want to run on the bank. They don't want to run on the stores. They don't want to run on the food. It creates a self-panic, so they'd rather leave it alone. And there's other reasons for it. But I want you to understand that there are some things taking place that literally could fulfill the visions, the dreams that people are having. How many of you know who my dad is? Raise your hand. You see him on Manifest. I'm going to tell you, my dad's, I'm going to be honest, I think he's a prophet. He has seen too much that's happened in the spirit, and it happens later. I went to the house the other day and said, oh, Lord, son. He said, I just had it, and I had it happen to me twice. He said, I was praying in this chair, and I closed my eyes and saw it as clear as I could. He said, I saw homes, and he said, I saw a plastic knife and a fork and a spoon, knife, fork, and spoon, knife, fork, and spoon. And 1/3 of it was buried in the ground, only 2/3 were sticking out. I said, Dad, I can interpret that. Most people eat a little bit of breakfast and a lunch and a dinner. That's 3 meals a day. You just saw that 1/3 of the food supply in the United States was going to be disrupted. That we're going to lose 1/3 of our food supply. He said, Lord, Dad, Lord, brother. He said, Lord, brother, that makes sense. That's what I saw. And there's various ways that could happen. One of the things happening now, you've probably heard about it, is the bumblebees have disappeared. And they've lost more bumblebees. If they don't stop the colony collapse disorder, they call it, and get the bees back, bumblebees, guess what? They pollinate the plants that produce 1/3 of the food we eat. Hey, there you go. There's your third right there. And it may not be that. My point is, how many of you believe, come on, talk to me, that we're living in the last days? Say amen. Now, part of understanding what's happening to us in America is called the fullness of the Gentiles. In the book of Luke 21:24, they shall fall above the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Romans 11:25, for I would not, brethren, that you be ignorant of this mystery, lest you